Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English.
Hi everybody and welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast, and today we're doing something a bit different. I'm speaking with one of my customers, one of my students, because I think it's really interesting to hear other people's stories. Everyone's story is a bit different, and this way you can get to know them, but also you can think about some other topics related to learning, language learning, and maybe there'll be some things that will help you as well. So good morning, Elisabeth. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Hi, thanks for coming on the podcast. Maybe you could start by just telling people something about you, who you are, what you do, and why you wanted to improve your English.
So I'm Elisabeth. I'm from Germany. I'm 42 years old and I'm still a student. It's never too late to learn things. Yeah, I'm a trainer, a special trainer for blind and partially sighted people. I'm partially sighted too, or that means I'm nearly blind. Yeah, what else?
Why an English course? Why did you think this would be
Your English
interesting for
course?
you? Yeah, any English course. Why did you decide to work on your English?
So it could be a bit a longer story. I do this English course not only to improve. If I would improve it, it's nice, but I would like to preserve my English. English at school, English was my nearly my favorite language.
Oh, great.
At first, because my English teacher, I think she did good English lessons. We had much fun. We learned with movement, with songs, with poems, and with activities. But she said, if you want to go to high school, you should do a bit more for English. And she gave me some extra tasks for preparation. I did these tasks. Yeah, but I didn't understand why I should do more work when the other students, when my mates,
Not fair.
and I had very good English marks. But at high school, I had a very bad experience. In our first English lesson, the teacher said, please raise your hand if you are, if you belong to the basic course or to the advanced course. And I didn't understand her question. And it was, I couldn't raise my hand for no question, or I couldn't answer the question. So it was clear it's the basic course. And my English was for high school very bad. And my marks raised down from mark 1 or 2 to 4 or 5. And it was a very hard experience. And at the end, I was happy to have my English exam with mark 4, and high school was over and English was over, and English bye-bye. I don't want to do things with English. It was 2002 or so. And 2012, I got an information that someone offers an English course, and it would be possible to get one-to-one lessons. And I thought it's a good idea to do something in English again. It's no school experience. It's it's another setting. And so I booked my first date with you. I think it was September 2012. And
yeah, I just started. You were the second person that I haven't worked with.
wow. Yeah, and we made a plan what my interests are. It was it's still a very individual offer. And so English started to be fun, and no hard work, or no there are no marks, and it's
No
now
exams.
Sorry?
No exams.
Yeah, and no exams. Yeah, today it's a exam for me to do this interview, but it's a new experience.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference how you feel, because you described the first English lessons and how you had fun and you were still learning, but then when the setting changed, if you're not enjoying it as much, or if you don't connect so well with the teacher, or if it's taught in a different way, then that can really affect how you feel about a subject. Like my relationship with maths improved after school because, I thought I can't do it, I don't like the subject, but actually I just didn't relate to some of the ways it was being taught. I still passed the exam, but I always had this idea that I wasn't very good at it, which actually isn't true. It's just that sometimes we need things in a different way, or to be explained in a different way. And talking about different ways, you mentioned in your introduction that you're partially sighted. So how did this influence what you're looking for in a course? Like, how did you, were there certain things that you were looking for? Had you had other experiences, like in group courses? What were you looking for as a partially sighted learner?
For me, it was interesting to have an online lessons. It was 2012, and it was I've never heard before something about online lessons, but for me it's good to learn from home. I don't need to go by bus or to go by train to at school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very comfortable to learn from home. And another thing was I knew that you are blind, and I hope that you know something about there are special needs, and you knew that was good. And I prefer, for example, the documents in a very clear structure. That means only text, and without pictures, or what else, quizzes which are very visual, or which are very nice to see. But it isn't important for me how it looks like. I understand that for sighted people it's very important, and but for me it could be sometimes it could be a barrier. So if a quiz is online, I had a course, an online course, and they did an online quiz with a web tool which wasn't accessible for me. And so English with Kirsty wouldn't offer me such a quiz.
Yeah, I don't use things that I can't use as well. That's like I want to make things accessible for the people that I'm working with. But if I can't see a picture, then I don't include a lot of images in my materials because it doesn't make sense for me. I can't choose a good picture if I can't see the picture. So I work a lot more with words, with text, with talking, and that doesn't mean that we don't use we've used videos and podcasts and other things as well, so that there is like multimedia content in the courses, but it has to be something that makes sense for the person I'm working with and for me as well, because if I have no idea what's going on, we can't talk about it. So yeah, I'm aware of that, and I think it's but for everyone, whether it's somebody working with a screen reader or who has a different type of need. I think we all have different types of needs. Some are more obvious because we work with different software, but I think for everyone who's learning something, it's really important to figure out what works best for you, what things don't work for you at all, whether because you don't like them or because you can't use them, and to find the ways that work best for you as a learner, because that's the way that you get the best results.
Yeah, and another good thing is how I get the material. Today there are some online courses. They offer their documents or their content on the website, which isn't accessible, or I can't use with a screen reader. So we use Dropbox, or sometimes I get the documents via mail as an attachment, and for me it's a very easy way to get the worksheets.
Yeah, some of the courses are very they have lots of different options on learning platforms, but that isn't always an advantage. I do use a learning platform for my Portuguese classes, but we have, and it works very well for what we do, but there are areas of that we can't use. So we can't use the whiteboard. That I won't go into the details, but that there are parts of it that I had to figure out with my teacher at the time. Okay, what's going to work for us, and what do we have to ignore because it makes no sense. It doesn't work with my software. So yeah, sometimes the site with the most functions and fancy stuff is not going to work if you're working with a screen reader, because they're not compatible. Some are, some really bother to make it work, and that's great, but a lot of them, especially when there's drawing involved or moving sections of a text around, or but it's come a long way, and I work with some other clients on developing good learning content. There's a lot of development and forward motion in this area, but there are also a lot of things that I've just had to abandon courses because they didn't work for me as a user. And I think it's really important for anyone who's either teaching or creating courses to be aware of this, that not everybody can use everything, and it's if you build accessibility in at the beginning, then it's going to make your life easier, because it's much easier to start thinking about how you will make your course accessible to everyone than trying to fix it at the end, because you're going to have more work to do that way. So it's best to start with this idea that we all learn differently, and that some people have additional needs.
Yeah, and I think for some sighted people, clear or a good structure could be helpful too. Sometimes it's better than a colored sheet with bubbles and arrows.
Too much going on visually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that too. I was doing a different course, and some people were saying that they had no visual impairment, but they liked because you could download different versions of the materials, and they preferred the ones that were created for screen readers because they were easier to follow. They were more logical in their structure. So yeah, you can set out to help one group of people, and you end up helping more, which is good. Okay, so talking about teaching, and you mentioned that you also teach, you're a trainer. Has English helped you with your job at all, or is it more something that you do for your own free time and personal development?
Yeah, I do it for my own, but sometimes it's good to have it for my job too. My students, or some of my students, are from other countries. For example, I had a Polish student, and it was very good for both for me and for her to do some parts of the lessons in English. This year, I have 2 students from Pakistan, and yeah, English is helpful too. Sometimes it's a bridge between them and me. Yeah, and sometimes we have international guests in our rehabilitation center, and yeah, I in 1 or 2 lessons I prepared a presentation about what I do, and that was very helpful to tell them in English what's going on in our or in my department.
Yeah, so you didn't actually have to, you don't specifically have to use it in your job, but it comes in useful then. And sometimes we've had topics that are more kind of related to IT or to your job, so that you can prepare for if you need to talk about a certain topic. Sometimes we talk about that, and you've helped me as well. You've shown me things and taught me things that I had no idea about. So yeah, it's an English lesson, but it's also I've learned some things from you as well, which is great, because it's always good to learn new things. And what do you do outside of the lessons to work on your English? Do you find it easy to get resources in English, to find accessible resources, or do you do other activities that help you to practice?
I'm not really looking for English resources. That means I listen to a few English with podcast episodes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I read your newsletters, which is a reading exercise, and yeah, sometimes I when I listen to the radio, I listen to the English speaker, or if someone speaks English, I listen to him or her, and I compare what the interpreter says, and I think about would I use these words too, or not, or is it the same? Is it the same thing what the interpreter says? I compare the English and the German sentences. Yeah, and sometimes no, every time after every English lesson and before it, I start to think English, and I do things in my household, and I speak to myself inside in English, and yeah, I try to find words for the daily things which I have to do.
And that's a really good way to train your brain, train your mind to start using English, because sometimes of all the skills that we have, a lot of people say that speaking can be the hardest, because it's the most spontaneous, it's the fastest. There are some people that hate writing and love speaking, but most of the time people say that speaking spontaneously is harder. So if you can do this exercise where you're alone and you're thinking and you're putting the sentences together, thinking what words you need, that does actually help when you come to speak, because you've already been doing that, and you're already in this kind of English mode, and then it's easier when you actually have to speak. So yeah, that's a good tip. I used to speak to my dog. I don't have a dog now, but my dog used to listen to all the languages that that were relevant to me at that time. At that time, it was German and Turkish. Now it's moved on, and I don't have a dog anymore. But speaking to yourself is a good way to do that, because nobody's watching, nobody's listening, and it can help you to feel more confident for when they are and to get in the right frame of mind to be using the other language. Okay, so is there anything else you would like to share or any advice you would give to other teachers who might get a request from a visually impaired client or?
Yeah, you said you speak German too, and yeah, that was also a reason for booking English lessons with you. Yeah, sometimes it's good to change to German for some vocabulary or grammar explanations. That's very very comfortable for me.
It's like the bridge that you were talking about with the students.
German is the bridge. Yeah,
German is the bridge. Yeah, and that can be useful. It doesn't have to be all the time, but for vocabulary or for I have other clients who want to explain something and maybe don't have the words. And so yeah, it's good that we can do as much as we can in English, but German is also there, or Romanian if you speak Romanian, and hopefully Portuguese as well one day, but not yet. But that's it's nice to have the other languages there.
Yeah, and so at least thank you for 12 years English lessons.
A long time. A lot has changed, but also a lot hasn't. So it's great, and it's great to see that your English has developed as well, and it's great to get to know all the different topics and things that you've been that we've talked about. So I'm looking forward to more. And thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been really good speaking with you. And yeah, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too, or all listeners. Bye.
Yeah, listeners too. You have a wonderful day as well.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.